Okay, this is a quick video introduction on how to use your graphing calculator to come up with an equation for data, a linear model or power model is what we're going to look at. I know many of you are already familiar with how to do this from your calculus classes, but we're going to go over it anyway. If you already know, then you want to skip ahead and move on, that you can do that. But for those of you who are not familiar with it, here we go. First thing you want to do is you want to hit the Stat button. Most of you probably have a TI-84, but all the buttons are the same. We want to edit, so I hit enter, or I can hit number 1. I already have data in there, okay, to save time, so you don't have to sit and watch me enter dozens of pieces of data. All you have to do is you have cursors, you can move left and right, and if I want to enter other data, I just type in the number and hit enter, and there it goes. So whatever I wanted to enter. If you have a whole bunch of data in a column and you want to get rid of it, you move your cursor all the way up to the top. So now you see my L5 is highlighted. I hit clear. You'll notice there's nothing down here. If you just stop there, it won't clear it. You have to hit enter after you do that, and that deletes the whole thing. We'll learn some more later. If any of you want to, you can actually set up your own columns with names and stuff, but most of you will probably wind up just using the L1, L2 and keep track of what they mean. You probably recognize L1 and L2 are the linear data we used before, so now I want to show you how to graph that. The first thing you need to do is, after you enter the data, is you need to set the window so you can see what's going on. So my window, my smallest X is 10, my biggest X is 24, so I'm going to probably go from 0 to 30, just so I have a little leeway. My biggest Y is 148. I probably go 200 so my picture looks good. So I go to Window. My minimum is going to be 0. And what did I say? I think I said 30. And all this does, the X, you can ignore that's X scale. That's where it puts the little dashes on the X axis. Most of the time you don't even need to worry about that. It just makes it look pretty. And then I said I would go to 200, not 20,000. And you can just, don't worry about the rest of it. Those are what we use all the time. To plot individual points, you need to go up here to Stat Plot. So the Stat Plot is the yellow part, so that's second Y equals. And you have 3 plots. The TI-84s may have more than 3, but we'll never use more than 3. So I hit enter to get inside. I need to turn it on. Most of it, usually, we're all going to use just the dash, the points. We're not going to connect them. This connects the dots, and that's not what we want. So we use the first type. You notice most of yours probably already say L1 and L2. I have changed mine. So down here, to get to the L1s, the yellow, L1, L2, it's key 1 is L1, key 2 is L2. That's pretty simple. So I hit second 1, and I get an L1 there. I hit second 2 for L2. I don't care what mark you use. So now if I hit graph, there's my picture. So that's how you get the individual dots. We don't want them connected, but we want to get a best fit line for that. That looks linear, so we're going to try linear. So I go back to Stat. I go to Calculate, so that's 1 over. So there's my edit. I'm going to move my cursor over to Calculate. Then we have a whole list of things. We have first and second, 1 variable, 2 variable stats. We'll probably never use that. This is your linear regression. That's y equals mx plus b right there. That's quadratic. As I said in the other video, I will almost never use quadratic because it fits everything and doesn't tell you anything. We will rarely use, we won't use cubics, we won't use quartics. This is it's another way of finding a linear line. We always just use number 4. That's a natural log regression, that's an exponential regression, and here's our power regression that we'll use in a little bit. By the way, to save time for you lazy people like me, if you're already up at the top, you can go up and it rolls you back out to the bottom. And that's the fast way to get the power regression. So I'm going to choose number 4. You can either scroll down and choose it, or you can hit the number 4. Now if I just hit enter, it will use L1 and L2. But I would like to not have to enter the graph by hand. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to go second 1 for L1, comma, there's your comma, it's right above the 7, second 2, comma, and then here's what you'll need. This is a little tricky if you haven't done it. Variables, we're going to go VARS, it's right here, right by the cursor. I hit variables, I want Y variables, so I go over there, and I want functions, and almost always we'll use Y1. So this says I'm going to use the data in L1 for X, L2 for Y, and I'm going to find the linear line that fits those, and I'm going to stick that line in Y1. So I hit enter. This is the information I would write down when you do it with your data. You'd be Y equals 5.26X. You're not going to write all that. Just keep a couple of decimal points. And the main reason I do that is so I know it helps me see that you actually did the homework, and your y-intercept was 18 point. Actually, that would round up to 0.80. Then if I hit graph, there's my original data and there's my line. If I go to y equals, there's my equation. It's already stuck in there. And that's how you enter your data. Let's real quick. I'm going to go back, turn that plot off. I'm going to go back to that plot. Now we're going to turn it on, but now I'm going to, I turn my plot on, I'm going to change this to L3 and L4. So second 3, comma, oops, I don't need the comma, sorry. I got confused. And second 4. So now I'm going to use my X as L3 and my Y as L4. But now if you remember, that data is different. It goes to 55, so I'll probably go up to 60, and it goes to almost 20,000. So I go back to my window. If you ever do a graph and nothing shows up, then you might want to check your window. So we'll go to 60, and we'll go to 20,000. So I need a couple more zeros right there. And just to make sure I have it, there's my graph. And you see that's kind of curved. You can see it, because especially if we assume that 0, 0 is a point, which oftentimes we can assume is 0, 0. So I get a curve up through there, so I'm going to find that equation. Remember, we go to stat, we go to calculate. And again, if you forget this, you can always look back at the video, or you might want to write it down. Or you could, as I'm doing it, you could do it along with me once. I'm going to go to the power. Hit that again. Now this time my X is in L3, so I definitely have to do it this way. I go second L3, comma, second L4. That's my Y. I'm going to put my data. If you've already got an equation in Y1, this will wipe it out, which is fine. Remember, we go to variables, VARS. I want Y variables. I want function. I want Y1. Okay, you do need to practice this. You will have a quiz on this, so if you haven't done it much, you can make up any numbers you want just to play with it and see how it works. You need to make sure you know how to do this. Then I hit enter. That one took a little while, and again, it gives you your variables. It tells you what the equation form is. So this is your power. You have a number in front of the X to the power. Okay, and they use 1.999, so it's basically 2. And when I hit graph, there's the data, and there's the line of best fit. Real quick, one last thing. Let's go to stat. I want to show you what happens if you try to put zeros in there. It's fine with linear. The TI uses, to put a 0 in there, the TI uses logarithms. And it turns out if you put zeros, if you have a 0 for X, it takes the log of 0, which for you math geeks like me, know that's undefined, so that's what causes the problem. If I go second insert, by the way, if you ever skip a piece of data and you don't want to have to retype it all, that's how you enter a blank. Then you could type over the 0 if you want to put a number there. So now I have the 0.00. So now I'm going to quit that. For those who aren't familiar with the TIs, if you go second enter, it will give you the last thing you did, which is going to save me having to type that. Second enter. That's often very handy. You make a little typo, you can go back and you don't have to. So I could go back and change whatever I needed to change. That's handy to know if you didn't already know that. And when I hit enter, I'm going to get an error message, and that's because I cannot use the power model when I have the 0.00. So if you ever have that, I tried doing like 0.001 and it doesn't like that either. So you just leave that point off and do the best you can. And by the way, if you ever get an error, you can quit, or if you do the go to, it will tell you where the error is. Sometimes that helps, sometimes it doesn't. So that's your intro to the TI-83. Make sure you know how to do the TI-83 and the iPad. So don't just sit and watch. If you haven't entered the data in once, you will probably struggle on the quiz tomorrow. Good luck.